Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome back to another film theory reaction. Now, I was wrong about the Amazing Digital Circus. So thinking back, the last couple Amazing Digital Circus theories they've done. Which ones could they be wrong about? Was it the one where, God, what was it? That Pomni wasn't an AI? No, that one was that the Digital Circus was like draining the humanity from the people inside it, from the humans inside it to make better AI or something like that. It was a really weird one. I can't remember what the first one they did was. I think it was something talking about like Cain and Abel, the company. But yeah, with the newest episode, definitely a lot of things did come to light, especially with the fact that, a great big heaping load of gasoline was thrown onto the fire. That was, the theory that Kinger is or was a developer of the game, because, healing butterfly out of nowhere. Then there's also the theory that Jax might be the one to extract, given the whole panic attack he was having at the end of the last episode. So honestly, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that could be going on right now. So I mean, I honestly don't have anything else to add, so let's get into this and see what specifically they were wrong about, because, I can make a list. Because, look, I love film theory, I love game theory, I love all the theory channels. But they can, it can be hit or miss sometimes. So yeah, let's actually get this thing started. So yeah, of course, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my game theory reaction. And if you like this video or any other video that I make, I'd very much appreciate it if you gave the video a like and subscribe to my channel, because over 3/4 of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed, and I'd very much like that to change, because my next big goal is to hopefully hit 6,000 subscribers by the end of the year. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
I was wrong about the Amazing Digital Circus. It's been almost a year since we've taken a dive into this series, and in that time, basically everything I thought I knew about it has been turned upside down. So today, let's see what's gone right and just how much I've gotten wrong. Hello internets, welcome to Film Theory, the show that's just falling into its archetype. So I want to be honest with you loyal theorists, I want to be a little vulnerable here. It's been just about a year since we've covered the Amazing Digital Circus, and that hasn't been because there's a lack of things to talk about. If you don't know, the Amazing Digital Circus is the smash hit success from Glitch Productions created by the talented Gooseworks. We did several theories about it over the years, but 3 new episodes have dropped since our last theory, all of them great, by the way, but we haven't done another theory yet because doing them is a little bit intimidating. This show and the artists who work on it are full of creative energy. They've thrown out so many ideas that felt like great hooks for theories, so naturally, we grasped onto a lot of them. Admittedly, a lot of the theories we made are a bit out there. I mean, Pomni is an evil AI,
right,
and the Digital Circus is literally hell? Well, given the current state of AI, maybe that's not too far from being realistic. But the point is that we took a lot of big swings when talking about the Amazing Digital Circus. And as you'd expect with a lot of big swings, some of those were big misses. And oh boy, did the comments sure let us know that. If there's one thing I've learned over the past couple of years with this show, it's that the fan base of the Amazing Digital Circus is incredibly passionate and incredibly protective of these characters. And you know what? I respect that a lot. I get it. The vibe and tone of the Digital Circus captured a lot of what I'm sure an entire generation has felt over the past 5 years in a way that I haven't seen in like a decade. That is worth feeling protective of. But this is a community and a series that I really do.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the thing. Like, as I said before, some of their theories can definitely be hit or miss sometimes. But at the end of the day, and, I'm pretty sure this is, a symptom of, just how much of a leading force, game theory is, in FNAF and in some other communities. But, like, at the end of the day, they are, theorists. They theorize about things. And nothing they say is gospel. Only, in this case, Gooseworks knows exactly what's going to happen in this series. And I would suspect also the voice actors, because, I think they've already done a read-through of the final episode or something like that. But yeah, I mean, like, again, like, at the end of the day, the theorists, game theory, film theory, they're basically in the same boat as, the general populace, where they're not working with, it's not an inside job, so to speak. And they're not trying to make bad theories. They're just doing the best with what they have.
I loved talking about it and I want to make more theories about it, but at the same time, I want to level set. I want to rethink how and why we approach this series and how we theorize about it. So here's what I want to do today, loyal theorists. I want to go back and look at all of our theories about the Amazing Digital Circus.
Jeez, did they really make 6 theories? I honestly don't remember. Like, again, the only one I actually remember was, the Pomni is an evil AI one. And I remembered a bit about the, when they actually talked about, it literally being hell. I have no recollection of any of these other theories.
Through them and look at them with the additional information we've gotten over the past 3 episodes and see if any of them actually hold up. Spoiler alert, I think a couple of them were really, really solid. And a lot of them,
are not.
Didn't pan out. That is a charitable way to put it. We'll also catch ourselves up on the big revelations the show has given us and see if we can figure out the direction the series is headed using all of this new information. And hey, maybe, just maybe, we'll figure out the best way to make new theories about this show. Sound good? Well, I hope so. Put your ideas in the suggestion box, loyal theorists, as we dive into this new adventure with the Amazing Digital Circus. So just real quick, our first few theories about this series actually came out back when Matt was hosting the show, so don't get whiplash if you hear his voice while I pull quotes from them. Also, a lot of them were made when we basically had zero knowledge of the show beyond episode 1, so I'm probably going to be blasting through a few of them pretty quickly just to save time and help our editors out. I mean, I can tell by the script link that this video is already very long. All right, so what?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at it, a 25-minute episode on something other than FNAF. Like, man, that's a long theory episode.
What's up first?
Everything in the show is literally a video game set in the late 1990s.
Yeah, this one's pretty self-explanatory and also pretty thoroughly debunked. Not only do the characters talk about technology and use slang from the modern age,
and posting videos of it online.
Ah, a YouTuber. It's kind of cringe.
But there's also a gravestone in episode 3 reading R.I.P. Peggy 2019 to 2022. So yeah, there you go. Maybe the Digital Circus was made in the 90s itself, but the series is more or less set in the modern day.
Yeah.
So I will say the Digital Circus being a game from the 90s would really help them out with like plenty of product placement, right? Like just think of the gateway PCs or Nokia phones they could get in here. All right, so which theory is up next?
Pomni helped create this hell simulation that they're currently stuck in.
Yep, so the idea here was that Pomni was a programmer at CNA, the people we think created the Digital Circus. And our main bit of evidence came from how Pomni reacts to seeing the recreation of the computer and desk with the VR headset while she's running through the back rooms in episode 1. However, just like that first mini theory, this one is completely debunked.
Yep,
in episode
completely.
5, we get a great scene with everyone at a noir-themed bar, and we get a glimpse at a lot of their backstories, including Pomni's. Here, she explains,
I was an accountant for a supermarket chain.
And she ended up in the Digital Circus because
I sometimes got bored of things, and I would seek out mild thrills, like exploring abandoned buildings and posting videos of it online.
the implication here is that she broke into the office building, put on the headset, and got sucked into the circus, not that she helped make it. Like, it's a pretty open and shut case there, honestly. Also, this explains the little mental breakdown we see in the backroom section of the circus that Kane created.
Because it was the last thing she saw in the real world before, she got sent into the video game. And again, like, the whole thing, like, I mean, she said, like exploring abandoned buildings. And thinking about it, that raises a lot of questions for me because, like, I mean, I've heard and seen urban exploration videos and stuff like that before. But usually the buildings they explore are, like, much more run down. Like, sometimes they're, like completely dilapidated, where they're basically like just a concrete structure with like no walls or something like that. Other times I've seen a couple where they walk through like malls that have been abandoned for like 5 or 10 years or something like that. They're still like structurally there, but like the inside's all dusty and dirty and stuff like that. This building, the CNA building, it looks very clean. So, like, again, like, working lights, again, like, the computer, obviously, on the desk here is the oldest piece of tech we see. Now, that being said, I have no idea whether this is, like, completely accurate to what the outside world looks like, and, like, and if this is a sort of, like, Kane remaking the offices by what he remembers seeing, given, the pictures he's holding. But, like, if the outside world is, you know, accurately depicted, that would mean that this building seemingly may have been, you know, only abandoned for a relatively short time before Pomni decided to break in and explore.
It wasn't her getting triggered by her workstation, but instead having that mental break, recognizing the building she broke into and the headset she put on that got her trapped in this mess to begin with. Also, a little bit of a tangent, but I have to say, I loved this little scene at the Noir Bar, just letting the characters talk and learn about each other. Like, we'll be back here to talk about this again, I'm sure about it, okay?
Again, and that's also the whole thing. It's like, it's one of those things just in a story, like at the story of the show, where like stuff like this, times like this where like the characters can just exist with each other and hang out. Like, that is the most like healthy thing I'd imagine that basically all of them need. Not going on like, I mean, granted, going on adventures just to spice things up every once in a while, but right now, like the thing that Kane doesn't get about them, because again, as I said before, I'm fairly certain he wasn't designed to take care of humans for this long, was that, you know, they don't need, you know, constant adventures and excitement all the time. They need, like, normality, or at least, you know, the sense of it.
Okay, so our third theory from back in the day.
All the characters aren't actually humans trapped inside the digital circus.
So the long and short of this, we believed that instead of the humans keeping the headsets on as their brains are being used by the circus, Sword Art Online style, they were instead copied and turned into their characters in the cast. Real talk, this one was a big swing, even back then, and there isn't a ton of hard evidence for it as the series has gone on. Really, the biggest piece of evidence that we don't see any bodies attached to the headsets in the real world could just be explained away with cartoon logic. Like, hey, they just got digitized and literally sucked into the computer like Tron or Digimon. Don't worry about it. Don't think too hard. The whole idea that they're just digital brain clones is an extra layer of complexity that, at this point, probably would not really make sense for this story since they haven't explored that at all yet. So,
I mean, granted, for me personally, that's one of the few theories they've come up with that sounds the most basically plausible. Like, again, like they put the headset on, it takes a brain scan, and, you know, that's, you know, when the real versions, you know, eventually left and stuff like that. Because, again, abandoned building, it doesn't seem like anybody's around, or at least shouldn't be around. Again, what I said before about the building being, again, you know, what I said before about the building being in, like, really weirdly good shape. But, like, if they were all, like, just plugged into, you know, the headsets for potentially years, like, who's taking care of their bodies? And like, why would they put on a headset if, you know, they saw it, you know, a bunch of unconscious people wearing headsets just draped around the PC and stuff like that? Like, again, them being digital copies, while it doesn't, like, change the story that much for me, it's the one that makes the most amount of sense for me.
So yeah, sure, this theory could still be true, but there's no real reason for it. Alright, so last up in the era of Matt, we've got...
The Amazing Digital Circus is, quite literally, hell.
Yeah, okay, that sentence is still very funny, and this episode was incredible theorist out of context fodder. Now, to be clear, this one was always out there, and we knew it. It was more of a fun side thought based on a bunch of parallels with Christian mythology that we noticed. I mean, we even say as much in that actual episode if you go back and watch it. The evidence we pulled was mostly symbolic. Pomni wears the same colors that many depictions of Jesus do. The characters are deliberately arranged similar to the famous Last Supper painting
on the
at the end
same
of
side
episode
table,
1.
yeah.
Themes of the show are very similar to a play called No Exit, where hell was being trapped with other people that you couldn't stand. You know, that sort of stuff. And I believe that thematically, this theory is still pretty solid. Like, obviously, the circus isn't literally an embodiment of the Christian hell, but the parallels are clear, and metaphorically, it very much is. And this crazy idea was later validated, even if just a little, by episode 3 of the series. The one where Pomni and Kinger go to a version of hell during an adventure and fight a biblically accurate angel. So yeah, fun idea, thematically on point, but not super serious or relevant to the future of the show. Oh, and
honestly, again, I'd love to, like, pick Gooseworks' brain here and just see, like, what she thought, like, the first time she watched videos like this. Like, like, I just, like, you know, given, you know, she's the creator of the series, I would love to see, like, just, like, her kind of, like, her mind just kind of, like, doing backflips, trying to figure out, like, how did they get to that. That's just a really weird, that would just be really funny.
A little bit of an aside here, because there's not really a better place to mention this in the rest of the episode, but perhaps the best bit of new evidence for this part of the whole theory? Well, we connected Cain and the company that created the Digital Circus,
to
TNA,
Cain and
to the
Abel,
biblical figures Cain and Abel. And in the latest episode, there's an interesting moment where Cain pulls out some pictures of the CNA office and just looks at them. It's a bit difficult to read his exact emotions here because, he's a set of teeth and a pair of eyeballs, but there is some sort of recognition, which, hey, makes sense because he would need to know about these offices to create the backrooms from episode 1, at the very least.
Honestly, I remember I saw a theory about, somebody looking and like what that whole scene represented, and I forget where. I think it was, I'm pretty certain this was on on the Reddit or something, but somebody had suggested that, that whole part, when Zubul says that, what I want the ability to have sex, and that's what causes, Cain to freak out. And, the main reason he does freak out is not just because, oh god, oh no, sex in a kids-friendly game. It's the competing natures of he's supposed to do everything in his power to take care of these people, but he's also, the creator and manager of a children's video game, and, you're not allowed to have certain adult topics in there, and you have these two, competing things fighting against each other in his head, and that moment where he kind of resets and goes offline was him actually contacting the company or trying to contact somebody in the building, like a moderator or an admin or something, to ask what to do. And when he reset and became more distant afterwards and later looked at the picture, it was him realizing that he's all alone and he has no help on the outside anymore.
We can confidently say that this particular connection between Cain and CNA is a thread that this series will continue pulling. Okay, so that's one of our more silly theories down, but what about something a bit more serious? What's next?
One of these characters in the Amazing Digital Circus is an AI imposter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up is our theory that one of the quote-unquote human characters is actually an evil AI that's infiltrated the cast to torture them. And
again, I will fully admit, I very much believed this theory for a long time. And again, I was always on the whole thing that Jax is I was very much on the Jax is an NPC train for a while. I mean, it was fun while it lasted. Now, it's very different.
And the most likely suspect, Jax. Now, I believed this was the case for many reasons, most of which I thought were understandable at the time. First off, it was heavily implied that an NPC had come into the circus at some point.
I know you guys love your NPCs, but if I start losing track of who's a human and who's an NPC, who knows what could happen?
And a lot of time in the episodes were spent saying either just how good the AI in the circus has gotten,
I'm testing out a new AI in this one. It should be 57 times more immersive.
or showing just how human a lot of the AI characters like Gummy Goo could act when given the chance.
Doesn't matter in the slightest. I'm nothing. My life, my memories, my friends. It's all fake.
Seriously, this show was just dripping with the theme that the human characters and the AI aren't actually all that different. And what better way to build on that than with the twist that one of them is an AI? Jax made the most sense to me. He was antagonistic, excited to go on the adventure so that he could torture his fellow castmates, ignored the laws of physics in ways that the other characters didn't really seem to, was the only main human character interested in food, something only NPCs were interested in up until that point, and was the only character in the cast outside of NPCs like Cain and Bubble that could break the fourth wall and look or talk directly to the audience.
Yeah, then, the newest episode came around and kind of popped that bubble for good. When it kind of showed that, all of this is really just an act. And also, may unintentionally be the fact that, that the humans in this circus may have more powers or abilities than they're aware of, and they just have to basically get into character essentially to gain access to them.
At the time, combined with all of those thematic parallels, I really thought that this one made sense and was going to pan out. But, well, it's very clearly not the case now that we have more episodes. Most of those quirks turned out to be just that, quirks. He likes food just because it's something to do and enjoy in this digital world. Being mean to the others is straight up a character flaw he's taken on himself because he feels like it's his archetype.
We're still people, though, right?
I thought we were at first, but as time goes on, we just end up falling into our archetypes, become part of the machine.
What's your archetype, then? The villain?
Man, Pastely would have pointed at this line and screamed. See, he's part of the machine. He's basically admitting he's an AI. But Present enlightenedly sees this for what it is. A human character who's been beaten down so much, he doesn't see a point in fighting against the machine that's assimilating him. Okay, so what about the defying physics then? Well, mostly, that was just for the lulz. And it's not something I think the other characters couldn't do if they really wanted to. See, one of the moments that really stood out to me in this latest episode was this right here. After getting hurt before the in-house gun adventure, Ragatha starts out with one fewer life than everyone else. But Kinger has a solution.
Oh, I got just the thing.
Butterfly.
Take this.
Wait, what did you just do?
It's a butterfly. It can restore your health.
Did Kane mention that?
Oh, nah. I made it up.
Yeah, Kinger straight up made up a new rule in the circus and restored health in one of the games. To me, this isn't saying that Kinger is special or anything like that. This is telling me that the cast have way more control here than they probably think they do. Something also supported in the previous episode when they could vote on changing the other castmates, like turning Jax into a vegan.
I'm calling a vote. Let's skip this one and also make Jax a vegan for the rest of the day.
You can't do that.
So, all of the physics-defying stuff Jax was doing, it was literally just because he wanted to. Just like the butterfly restoring health, and other smaller things, like Jax and Pomni shooting the guns all cool-like just because they can. But more than any of this, the thing that really disproves Jax is an AI. Jax clearly has a human backstory because it seems like he was brought into the circus with a friend, or at the very least became good friends with another character before the start of the series.
Yeah, Ribbit.
This character was likely named Ribbit, as we learned from a Tumblr post from Gooseworks, and he abstracted just before Kaufmo. We see Jax look at Ribbit's door, sadly, and he becomes upset when anything regarding the character is mentioned. Which, hey, understandable if your best friend basically died right in front of you and there was nothing you could do about it. This is why he's so detached from the others, why he didn't attend Kaufmo's funeral, why he's embraced being the antagonistic funny guy. He just doesn't want to feel this pain again, because if he does, well, we see at the end of the last episode, he almost abstracts and only barely pulls himself back, a storyline I expect we'll be coming back to in future episodes. Ironically, this kind of makes Jax the most human character of them all, doesn't it? But that theory wasn't alone, it was part of a pair. So, up next...
Is Pomni from the Amazing Digital Circus an AI imposter?
Ah, yes, of course, one of my more infamous theories here. Pomni is actually an evil AI.
Again, like, I'm having, like, vague recollections of the theory now, because I honestly haven't thought of it since, you know, the video first came out. And, like, even now, just thinking about it, it's such a stupid theory.
But hey, like this one, yeah, they were totally going down this route, dude.
Today, I'm just gonna be evil. Those other fools better watch their tails because they're going to face the wrath of Pomni the Evil!
See, that's why she has the evil arc in one of these episodes. I'm not crazy, you're crazy. Okay, no, but for real, this idea was a stretch even back when we made it. I mean, we even said as much in the episode. A big component of this theory was about looking at the science of artificial intelligence, how it works, and then applying that knowledge to the Amazing Digital Circus to see if anything fit. There were some cases where they kinda did if you squinted a little bit, and combined with the idea from the previous theory that someone was likely an AI, that was the backbone of this one. But yeah, nah, this is absolutely not the direction the series went. Outside of looking at the technology of AI, probably the biggest evidence I saw for this was just how much we saw Pomni empathizing with NPC characters like Gummy Goo. Again, I saw this as Glitch setting up the idea that the AI and humans aren't so different, with Pomni directly as the bridge between the two, but that's just not the case.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was literally just Pomni being, you know, empathetic. Where, I mean, even if it wasn't a human, this NPC was suddenly having to come to terms with their entire existence being fake. And you know, while not the same, she didn't have a you know, a similar sort of mental breakdown relatively recently.
I feel very confident that Pomni is exactly who she appears to be, a very normal human with the very normal human backstory we've heard in the newer episodes. All of that empathy she was showing Gummy Goo, it was just Pomni being empathetic, and setting up those tools of empathy to be used with other characters like Kinger, Ragatha, and Jax later in the show. This is a situation where I really just have to use Occam's razor. This is a philosophical and problem-solving tool that states that the simplest answer is most often the most likely answer. So, is Pomni an evil AI? No, she's just an empathetic person. Though I do have to say, it feels like the show is really rubbing both the Jax is an AI and Pomni is an AI theory in my face with this scene in particular.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer.
Are you seriously gonna start singing that?
If you don't know, this is a song called Daisy Bell, and it's significant because it was actually the first song that was ever reproduced digitally. Yeah, back in
Honestly, I remember, like, when I did my reaction to that episode, and, you know, when Zubul said, oh, Kane just standing outside my door singing Daisy Bell, and I got, like, I kind of got creepy, or creeped out about it, I should say. I got a fair number of comments saying it's like, oh, that's not that weird, why are you acting so weird about it? And again, like, you know, like, I don't know if people didn't have, you know, the knowledge of the history of the song with computers and stuff like that, but I was specifically, I didn't say it at the time, and I probably should have in, like, a comment or something, but at the time, I was very much connecting it to, like, the song to, like, 2001: A Space Odyssey, where if you haven't seen that song, at a point in the movie, you know, the AI of the starship starts going, you know, nuts and starts killing off the crew. And when they finally get to defeating it, they defeat it by basically systematically turning off, like, sections of its brain. And as it's shutting down, you know, Hal, the computer, starts singing Daisy Bell. It's like, or just as he's like, as his brain is literally dying, that's the only thing he can think to do, you know, to sing Daisy Bell. And I got freaked out because knowing that implication, that could potentially mean that, you know, for the lack of, like, external, for the lack of problems that Kane shows externally, there's potentially a lot of damage building up inside that's only, you know, beginning to be shown now through Daisy Bell. And then, you know, later on in the episode, we see some very external problems with whatever, you know, damage is currently taking place in Kane due to his lack of ability to serve his basic function.
1961, IBM programmed one of their computers to sing it, demonstrating early speech synthesis.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer, ooh.
And the song was later included as part of the computer
literally what?
HAL 9000 in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer, too.
So, like, come on, man. This is clearly just a fun little Easter egg, but dude, Hastily would have eaten that up as part of those old theories. Alright, so cool. That theory is behind us. What's next?
I need a living host in order to escape the Hall of the Damned, and your bodies will be my only means of doing so.
This is the key to the entire future of this series.
Yeah, it's our theory that the Amazing Digital Circus is actually out to steal your soul. So this one is a bit complicated, but the TLDW...
God, yeah, this one, right.
What happens to cast members after they abstract, and using the adventures that Kane was coming up with as a sort of rubric for the overall plans of the AI in the circus. Basically, the circus was dehumanizing the human characters, and when they eventually abstract from that loss of humanity, I thought the raw computing power of their brains was being added to the circus's AI. And the why it was doing this? Well, it was in an attempt to escape its computery prison body. This was represented by the storyline that Pomni and Kinger follow in the spooky haunted house adventure Kane makes, with a dark spirit trying to escape from its hellish prison. Looking back, I actually think that a lot of the pieces we put together here do make a lot of sense given the knowledge of the series we had at the time. So go check out that theory if you want the full context.
You know, it is kind of funny, where, like, you have all these things that, you know, they were kind of like, they were pulling at threads, making connections that, you know, weren't there. that never were there. Or thinking that, like, oh, these plot points will mirror, you know, the bigger story and stuff like that. And I'm just thinking, like, the few times I have written, because I don't do that often because I'm not that good, but the few times I've done it, I never think about, like, making little connections like that. So if I ever did make something that was so popular, I would confuse theorists and stuff like that of my work so badly, simply because, like, they're trying to make connections, stuff like that, or for whatever series I created, that I had no earthly, like, that I did not think of in the slightest.
But that being said, with these 3 additional episodes, that just doesn't seem to be the direction that the Amazing Digital Circus is headed. Like, if this was indeed the long-term storyline of the series, we would have seen way more buildup of this idea, but...
Yeah, thinking about it, like, we haven't actually seen that much of the circus itself. Like, we've seen inside the tent, and we've seen a little bit of the grounds on the one... you know, in the one little adventure, in the one little lightning round adventure where they were stargazing, but we haven't seen the lake to drown yourself, and we haven't seen the grounds, like, at all.
All we've gotten instead was acknowledgement that Kane knows about stuff in the outside world. There really just haven't been any more hidden messages about a deeper AI entity, or any more exploration of abstraction, and whether or not that influences the circus. And if that was the long-term play, we absolutely would have gotten more of it by now. But instead, we're 2/3 of the way through this thing, and that's basically all we've gotten. Instead, this show is way more interested in exploring its individual characters and their dynamics, which, hey, leads us to the next theory.
Kinger is going to be a tragic character with a tragic end.
Yep, it's our little character study about Kinger's backstory and his eventual fate in the show. If you missed this one, I believed that Kinger was some sort of bigwig at CNA with a past that he'd rather forget, and that past was likely getting his wife involved with the digital circus, which would eventually lead to her death through abstraction. This was based off of his appearance, his similarities to the character Theodore Mildenhall in one of the adventures, his competence with guns, and how other characters prod about the loss of his wife. We also speculated that he'd be the next character to abstract.
I mean, thinking about it, I don't think it's so much that the other characters forgot that he had a wife. I just think that none of the other characters have been around long enough to even know he had a wife in the first place.
Thanks to, and I kid you not, socks. Yeah, there are a pair of abstraction-themed socks on the Glitch store that use Kinger and Queenie's color scheme, so it just made sense. So, overall, I'm still really proud of this theory. I think it's really solid stuff, even if some of the smaller details might be off or need to change thanks to new information we've gotten since episode 3. Like, merch might not necessarily be the indicator of what Glitch plans to do with these characters like I thought at the time. I mean, they're selling plushies of Pomni dressed up as Jax and Pomni as a hamster.
I mean, if you watch the promo for this merch, it's not so much that she's dressed up like Jax, she is actively wearing Jax as a suit, which, you know, in and of itself is extremely creepy.
Stuff that is more symbolic or clearly non-canon, but just totally cute. And given that Jax seems to be on the brink of abstraction himself, well, Kinger might not be next on the chopping block, but I can still definitely see a future where this is the eventual fate for our lovable little chess piece. Now, looking back at all of these theories, what's panned out and what hasn't, it's got me thinking about how we can possibly move forward theorizing about this show. And I do have an idea. It mostly comes from something Gooseworks said recently about the series during a live stream, and specifically it was about what she expects the reaction to the next episode to be. Check it.
I'm really excited for the reaction to that one.
It's gonna piss off.
It's gonna make people mad. It's only gonna piss off the right people.
Okay, so right off the bat, this could mean a lot of things. The people who could get mad at this upcoming episode could come from a wide gamut. Like, will it be Jax fans getting angry? There have been several camps of Jax stands that have swung back and forth at being angry and elated at the direction his character is gone. Or heck, maybe it could be people upset that he's gonna abstract. Or the people getting mad could be shippers, people who want Jax and Pomni to get together, or any other combination of characters. But another option I think is worth exploring here, well, what if the people who are going to get mad are theorists? Don't get me wrong, I don't think Gooseworks, or anyone else at Glitch for that matter, are making their shows with, like, me in mind.
And also, like, again, you know, some of the theories they've made are, you know, kind of hit or miss. But calling them like, oh, it's only gonna make the right people angry. That sounds malicious and targeted. And what specifically about theorists would have been so bad that she'd want to specifically target them to make them angry?
With these channels in mind, that's ridiculous, and I actually know for a fact that a lot of them avoid theory videos from creators here on YouTube so it doesn't influence their writing. And I don't want to come across as thinking that these creators are talking about literally us here in these actual clips. That's not my intention. No, but I think even if that isn't what they meant, theorists could have the same reaction to the next few episodes as what they've described here. Really, the big takeaway I've had after sitting and thinking about this series over the past year, seeing new episodes drop and all of the commentary from Gooseworks and the other creators, is I don't think there is going to be a big theory twist. There is no secret AI or hidden story. The Amazing Digital Circus is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a character-driven series dissecting its cast, their relationships with one another, and the drama that follows.
Yeah, I mean, I could very much see that being the case, because if I remember correctly, I think somebody, I forget what the question was, but Gooseworks said that the show was going to be about finding meaning in, what was it, like, a sedentary life or something like that? So, like, I don't imagine there being, you know, I don't think there's going to be, like, some big reveal. I mean, like, I would like to learn some more about, you know, the world and, like what CNA was like and what the Amazing Digital Circus was originally supposed to be, because even then, like, this is like the abilities of Kane and stuff like that, like, granted, I could see this as being just a very advanced video game, but that's with everything that Kane can do in this world, and with how human-like he seems, like, it's very strange.
All while they're tortured by their AI overlord Kane, which means that they're getting to know each other better, revealing things about their backstories that they clearly haven't before, and are growing as people because of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't blame us online theorists for really jumping on this series. There were certainly a lot of seeds planted early on, and hell, even in recent episodes, that could grow into some crazy twists.
Oh god, right, yeah, the weird, like, drawing mannequin that just keeps watching from the background. Originally, I thought it was just supposed to be, like, a running gag, but no, then in that one episode, they specifically, like, draw attention to it, like, with the sinister music, stuff like that. Like, what is that supposed to mean?
Or unforeseen storyline that maybe, just maybe, you could suss out by putting the pieces together. But so far, the Amazing Digital Circus hasn't really seemed interested in following up on any of that. Well, at least the ones that aren't focused on character moments like Kinger's backstory. But the big stuff, like the hints that we picked up that one of the main cast is actually an evil AI toying with the humans, or that there's an evil AI buried deep in the circus that wants to escape, those just aren't threads they've pulled on, nor do I expect them to as the series goes forward.
Which, actually thinking about it, going back to, like, episode 1, Kane specifically said when Pomni was in the void, oh no, she'll get totally spoiled! Like, what was she going to get spoiled by? Like, again, I wonder if that's going to be one of those things that we eventually learn about, or was just, like, sort of like a one-off gag that's never going to be brought up again. Or, you know, for all we know, episode 9's literally going to be nothing but callbacks.
At this point, it would be a really big turn into left field and probably make things worse for the overall story. And you know what? Good. That's a great thing. I mean, don't misunderstand. I love a good theory-driven show. I mean, just look at what channel you're on. But also, there comes a point in your life when you realize that not everything is a FNAF or a Gravity Falls. Not everything needs to have a secret story hidden beneath layers and layers of lore and puzzle solving. Sometimes it really is just that simple. And honestly, that's a breath of fresh air. Like, I thought going in that the Amazing Digital Circus was gonna be, like, lost with a bunch of mysteries to solve and theories driving the online conversation, but instead, we just got a good TV show. In retrospect, I think what I should have done with this series was really dig more into the characters. And I don't mean by trying to figure out, like, who's the evil AI spy or anything like that. I mean, trying to figure out their backstories or what issues they're dealing with. Just really do character studies on them, similar similar to what we did with Kinger last year, to see if we could figure out what the creators of the Digital Circus are saying with each of their cast members instead of trying to make sense out of what they weren't saying. And you know, it might be worth going back and doing that now, examining this cast and doing some lore breakdowns and theorizing about each of them from there. You know, instead of going crazy with something just off the wall. So if you're interested in those, please let me know in the comments below. But until then, remember, the beauty of these channels is that it's always just a theory. A film theory.
Oh god, that was horrifying.
And cut. Up next.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, yeah, again, like you gotta give credit to anybody that's, you know, willingly, you know, that's fully willing to just outright say that they were wrong in the past. Again, you know, a lot of those old theories were very flawed and kind of missing the point of, you know, what kind of show, you know, the Amazing Digital Circus is. Now, that being said, you know, I don't think it's, you know, that, you know, shocking to say that I'd love, you know, that I and many other fans would love to learn more about, you know, the world and the history and stuff like that, you know, find out some good lore. But at the end of the day, this is a show that's driven by its characters. Like, purely. The world itself is just set dressing to, you know, force them into situations where they talk and learn about each other. Ah, God. But yeah, that's definitely going to be it for now. So yeah, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.